All right, got some vaccinations there?
Yeah.
Let's see what we got. Are you planning on going for that DHLP soon?
Yeah, she has it.
Oh, she does?
I just didn't have I couldn't find the other second paper. She
Cool.
also has the influenza.
Yep.
Well,
The influenza, it's not as critical usually. That one's not usually required.
yeah, she was going in Mud Hut, so
Yeah.
that was a requirement there for some reason.
Yeah. Okay. You guys are on Tremont, or in Tremont?
Yeah.
So excited.
Yeah.
So what's going on?
So just like you're saying in there, it's really excited. When we go on walks, she's just squirrels darting after them.
It's kind of all over the place.
Yeah, and she was like, we were kind of trusting her a little bit. We were taking her, there's like a field over by Tremont, and then one day she just took after a bird.
Clark Fields?
Too. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then ever since then, we've had a little bit of trust issues, naturally. So.
Now, you said she's pretty good with other dogs, though, usually?
Yeah, so we've been taking her, we took her to Mud Hut before they shut down.
Yeah.
She was just getting, I don't know how much she was socialized before we found her as a stray.
Sure.
She was a little bit nervous around the other dogs, but
Yep.
she was showing interest.
Good.
And then we went back to California, so she was stayed with a bigger pit too. And after a couple days, they were
Hey.
playmates. So
Come here. She's like, I don't know. Come here. There we go. Okay, so what we're going to do, since we only have 4 sessions here, is we're going to kind of just crash course through stuff. We're going to move as fast as we can here and see what all we can get done. I know the big goal here is leash walking and jumping, correct?
yeah.
So those should be 2 very easy things to get done initially. So what we'll do is for the first 15, 20 minutes of this session, we're going to introduce the prong collar. Depending on how she does with that, we may just do prong today and save e-collar for next time. Or if she does really, really well with it, what we'll do is we'll add the e-collar in today and cruise through things like that. It's going to kind of just depend. Like Huey was a pain in the ass with the prong originally when we started. Like he had a really rough first session with it, but then he bounced back amazingly the second, you know? So some dogs just depending on how they respond to it, you know? So what I'll do is I'll take the leash from you there. We're going to go ahead and walk over this way a little bit, get in the sun. Oh. And the idea here behind the prong collar is that we want to teach it where she understands that this leash means information and not just a restraint. Because that's where most dogs go wrong, is this thing just holds them back from getting from stuff. And what it does is it creates lots of frustration, which turns into pulling, it turns into reactivity, it turns into all sorts of little problems that you have, right? Okay. So in a minute, I'm going to switch over to the prong collar. I'm going to kind of start walking around randomly here. And as I do that, what I'm going to do is as she gets distracted, I'll apply steady pressure in my direction like this. I'll hold that pressure steady. And the second she turns and moves with me, I'm going to be actively relieving the leash myself, right? So what that's doing is teaching that the off switch is moving towards me. The off switch is moving towards me. As she does well with that, we'll start shaping a heel. We'll start adding some sits into it. And then depending on how she does with that, like I said, we may or may not add the collar in. Okay. So when are you leaving again?
We are leaving around the end of June, probably. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So we're just doing once a week then?
Yes.
I didn't know if we were trying to squeeze this into a tighter time frame or not. So that gives us enough time though. So, all right, let's see what we get. What you think? Okay. So again, just walking, stopping, applying steady pressure, relieving that when she moves with me. And I'm just going to do that a bunch of times here. The wind. Now there's not going to be too much of a rhyme or reason to where I'm walking, aside from I'm going to be going in the opposite direction of wherever she's trying to go. Just teaching that the attention needs to stay on me here. She seems pretty smooth on it already. Huey would just kind of put the brakes on when he felt it. Yeah. He was just like, nope, I don't know what to do. I'm not going to move at all. And she's kind of just sensitive enough to it, you could tell. I want the dog to have a quick response to it, but it not be like over the top or anything, you know? She's a very wiry little thing.
Yes, yes.
Again, I don't particularly care which side she walks on just yet. Just trying to get her moving with me. So you'll see, little by little, I'm shortening this leash up a little bit, trying to kind of get her a little bit more on the left-hand side and shape that heel position a little bit more. Same deal, shortening a little bit more there. It's been really good so far.
I know. We're like, oh.
Yeah, it's like you're not pulling.
Yeah.
Very impressive. All right, so now that I have that leash just about as short as I need it, like I said, I'm gonna start shaping that heel even more. So if she gets ahead as I'm walking, I'm just gonna apply pressure back with the leash. If she tries to drop her nose to sniff, I'll use the leash to block that. And again, just kind of shaping the muscle memory of this a little bit. Now, a lot of times, one of the harder things to tackle originally is some of the impulsiveness of the sniffing and everything. Obviously, heel, even if she's staying in the position, doesn't mean sniff around and stuff, so I am going to be blocking all of that. And it's not, I always say, it's not that we're like anti-letting your dog go to the bathroom on the walk or sniff on the walk or anything, but we have to have clear criteria for any of the things we're asking. And it's really difficult to have this like gray of like heel, but like you could also go off and sniff this and go and do this and stuff. So like with my personal dogs, when I'm walking them, they're either heeling or they're free, right? So I'll heel them to the spot I want to give them freedom in, then I'll let them totally go off and do their thing and stuff like that. So I will be enforcing that the same way with her here. So I'm going to do just another minute of this heeling, and then we'll start moving on to something else. She's doing pretty good so far, though. What I want to start to see is that she's getting softer on the leash, where when I give information with it, obviously, she's quickly adjusting herself. So again, the little impulsive, I want to pick up that stick. I want to grab this thing over here. Very good. Alrighty. So next what I'm going to do is I'm going to start adding some basic sits into this. This is all going to be non-verbal here, so we're just teaching that leash pressure, obviously, making sure she understands the leash as information here. So what I'm going to do is come to a stop, apply a little bit of pressure up on the leash. I'm going to hold that pressure steady, and then the second that her butt starts coming to the ground, oop, I'll relieve that pressure. And again, we're teaching the off switch for this pressure. So in the healing case, when you're in the bubble, in the sit case, when you're on the ground. And we see a lot of dogs that are wiry like this, that when they feel pressure or get stressed out, they'll start the jumping and stuff. So we're kind of teaching her to not resort to that as an initial response, right? Okay, so I'll do a couple of those, make sure she gets nice and smooth with that. Again, coming to a stop, applying a little bit of pressure up on the leash. There you go, relieving that when she gets into the position. Okay. 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 Like our little 360 before it. There you go. Okay. 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 You see she's starting to get a little quicker with that. Okay. 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 Good job. Your little underbite. Get your little fat lip. Okay. All right. So it looks great so far. So we are going to start a little bit of e-collar stuff here. I think what we're probably going to do is I'm going to have you guys just work on the leash stuff at home this week, but we'll start the e-collar in preparation for what we're going to do next time. So we'll start the e-collar, we'll do a little bit of that, and we'll bring her back over here and I'll have you guys go through some of the leash work with her. Okay. So loud. But yeah, we try to do too many things at once, right? We're giving verbal commands, we're pulling our leash, we're trying to use treats, we're trying to use this and that, and all of them are kind of done like half-assed, you know? Like the dog never really understands any of them clearly. So we try to take it one step at a time, where now at least I know she understands this leash. Whether she is responsive to it long term or gets used to it or what, at least I know she knows what it means, so that I could start to layer some of my other communication in. So in this case, the e-collar or the rewards or anything like that. So
Yeah, the communication with that is
yep.
intense. Well, and I mean, we were recommended the no pull harness, and I feel like that just.
Did you try it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just. More pull. Yeah, it was.
You're talking the front clip one?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the problem is, no matter what way you spin it, harnesses are designed for one thing. They're designed to be comfortable to pull into, right? I mean, there's a reason why sled dogs use them. There's a reason why any dog that's pulling a cart or anything are using them, is because they could put more force into it more comfortably and more safely for them. And I understand that, like, people want to use the harnesses because they don't want the dog to injure themselves pulling, right? I get that. But ultimately, the goal should not be that it's comfortable for the dog to pull. The idea should be the dog just doesn't pull, right? And then, you know, they add in the whole front clip with the idea of like, oh, well, it's spinning them, right? But it's still on the strongest part of the body, you know what I mean?
Walking sideways then.
Yeah. So, all right, let's go ahead and go back over here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to start layering in this e-collar. Doing good so far, kid. All right, so what we need to do first and foremost here is we need to figure out what her general working level is going to be. So basically what that is the first level that she notices and isn't like overly averse by, right? So these particular e-collars have 100 levels to them, so they're very adjustable. Most people don't really feel them until they're at about a 15 or so on it. So, and a lot of dogs honestly work in that range, that like 10 to 15 range. And then we'll see other dogs that work way higher. So we'll see what we get, right? But what I'm going to do is I'm going to start at 0, go up, give a tap, go up, give a tap until I see some sort of sign that she's noticing the stimulation. So right about there, you can see her kind of twitch a little bit on the side of the neck. That was a 14. So like we were talking about, pretty darn low there. So anytime when I see that, what I do is I'll back it down a little bit. So we'll start at about a 10. And that's going to be our first working level that we work at here. So we're going to take her for a little walk, and what I want to do is I want to start conditioning in that the e-collar now means the same thing as the leash. So we've established this leash. We've established when you feel it, you move into the heel position, you move into the sit, whatnot, using that kind of pressure on, pressure off concept, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to layer this in to mean the same thing. So we'll walk. Anytime she gets ahead of me, tries to sniff, whatever, when I need to use that leash to move her back into position, what I'm going to be doing is pressing and holding the button on here as well, right? So we're teaching they are both exactly the same thing, right? So you guys can walk with me. You're going to walk on my right-hand side. And then, like I said, we're going to take her for a little stroll. And anytime I pull back on the leash there, what I'm going to be doing is pressing, holding that button as well. Now, obviously, we have this additional distraction, a little thrown off by you guys. No big deal. Just something we got to work through. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to stay at this level 10 for a little bit here until I start to see, is she motivated by it? Is she not motivated by it, right? What, you know, is she starting to understand what I want? And then from there, what I'll do is I'll begin increasing it as I need to based on how she responds. And she typically always kind of on alert like that on the walk. Yeah. Yeah, hunting for things. Is she usually bothered by traffic at all?
When we first got her, she was, but
yeah.
not much anymore.
Good.
Like a semi or something.
Sure. Yeah. Something that'll kind of startle her a little bit more. Now you'll see as I'm doing this, I'm being extremely diligent and deliberate about where I'm putting her, right? So as she gets ahead, I'm backing her all the way back up into position, right? And I'm being very clear about where I want her to be and where that pressure comes off, right? Because we're teaching an off switch, if I'm not super clear about that, she's gonna start to learn up here works, over there works, right? where I want it to be consistently right there in that position.
And you're holding until she gets to that position, not just one second?
Correct. Yeah, so with the e-collar, you'll see holding, releasing. Holding, releasing. And again, now that we're kind of on the walk, we're fighting some more of those impulses of the sniffing and everything. And she's being pretty responsive still. It's not taking too much to get her attention off of it, but again, that is something that we need to work through with her. So we're going to take her up into this park, do a little walking around there and see how she does. So I am starting to gradually increase that level. We're at like 15 now, so just kind of going off of how she's responding to it. By the end of the session, usually what I'm looking for is that she's responding like 75% to the e-collar and 25% to the leash. So the leash is just kind of giving a direction, you know, but I'm not needing to really move her as much with it. So again, continuing to gradually go up based on her response. We're up a little bit more in the 20 range now. And you can see a little bit more visual of her response now when she feels it. You tell she's starting to care a little bit more about it. That's kind of the idea, is we're trying to get the dog to care more about the information that we're giving as opposed to the distractions, right? And for some dogs that get like really hyper fixated on things, that can be really difficult for the first couple of sessions because you're really fighting like a lot of rehearsed things. Like I'm sure she's used to, as she's walking through the park, kind of, you know, going off and checking out the birds over there and checking out the smells over here and stuff. So we're essentially telling her, yeah, all of those things that you're used to doing, you can't do right now. Now this section of the walk here we refer to as Squirrel Alley. This usually at any given time, probably not right now, but you usually can see like 10 squirrels at a time in just this little stretch right here. They'll be like lounging on the fence or like coming out of the trees, or it's a very, very good training opportunities. And you can just tell she's just in straight up hunting mode right now, you know? So like we talked about, I'm just looking to continue increasing that level based on her level of distraction and based on how she's responding to it. So though she's having more of like a physical response to it due to the muscle stimulation from the e-collar, I'm still going off of, again, how much leash pressure am I needing to use and how much do I feel like she's motivated by the e-collar in this moment. And all things considered, I'm being able to stay loose on this leash for a good majority of it. I'm needing to give a lot of information still, but it's not very difficult to snap her out of it, you could tell. You can see we're starting to get somewhere that looks like what we want this to look like. She's not kind of forging quite as much. I'm not needing to use as many e-collar corrections, obviously. And I'm looking to see those ears kind of relax back a little bit too. Not as much of that kind of hunting around. But this looks fantastic.
Yeah, not to do anything with it.
Yeah. And as they start to get it, you'll probably find one or two, there you go, one or two e-collar corrections is usually more than enough to kind of focus them in, as long as you're at a motivating enough level, you know. I tend to focus on the clarity side of things first. So have I shown her what it is that's expected? And that was when we started the walk, tons of repetitions at the 10, the 15, really low, you know. And then as they get it, if they're still pushing the boundary like we were getting in the park with the distractions, then I'll start to increase that level based on how she's responding to it.
Yeah, this is a lot better.
Yeah, little different than what you're used to, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have sore arms already.
Yeah. You know what one of the most awkward parts I found is for people is that when they're used to having their arm really tense like this on the leash is like beginning to like relax. Yeah. Just be there, right?